RKO connects. Kofi Kingston jaw and face planted.
On paper, Cody versus Randy was supposed to be the most legendary rivalry in WWE history. The master against the protege, everything was lined up. The history, the raw emotion, the story. So how did a feud with this much nuclear potential completely crash and burn against our expectations? To understand how WWE managed to drop the ball on an obvious dream feud, we need to understand Legacy, the faction that started it all long before Cody was a global megastar, breaking thrones and finishing stories. He was a second-generation rookie trying to survive in a ruthless WWE. Enter Randy. Orton wasn't just a star, he was the cold, calculating leader of Legacy, a faction built on elite wrestling bloodlines. Alongside Ted DiBiase Jr., Cody was Randy's teammate and subordinate. The dynamic they had back then was toxic. Randy was the ultimate predator, a locker room viper who ruled through fear, manipulation, and tough love. He would berate Cody, test him, and demand absolute loyalty. But for Cody, the son of the legendary Dusty Rhodes, it was a test for survival. He absorbed everything Orton did and didn't do: the pacing, the presence, the killer instinct. He was the eager protege, taking the psychological scars just to stand in the spotlight next to the champion. Every slap Randy delivered as a lesson only planted the seeds for a future blood feud. It was a ticking time bomb of respect and resentment, mentor versus student war that took over a decade to finally explode. Back in then, Cody simply wasn't the man he is today. He was a kid trapped in a mid-card maze, suffocated by the towering presence of Randy. When Legacy inevitably imploded, it didn't catapult Cody to the top. Instead, it left him drifting. Over the next few years, WWE threw everything at him, from the narcissistic, dashing Cody Rhodes to the frantic, face-painted, bizarre Stardust. But no matter how hard he worked or how brilliant his character work was, he was always operating under a glass ceiling. He was still that same rookie from Legacy, forever walking in the shadow of giants like Randy and other wrestlers who were at the time big than him, never truly viewed as the guy. Cody eventually realized this brutal reality. As long as he stayed in that system, with the Viper standing over him or just around the corner, he would always be the less than. He would never outgrow the ghost of his mentor. So in 2016, he did the unthinkable. He walked away. Cody left WWE on a self-imposed exile that lasted years. He traveled the world, bet on himself on the independent scene, helped build an entire rival wrestling promotion, and completely remade himself from the ground up. He went out into the wilderness to kill off the rookie he used to be, finally learning how to command an arena without anyone else's permission. He had to completely remove Randy Orton from his atmosphere just to discover the man he was always meant to become, the American Nightmare. Cody thrived outside of WWE. He proved that he didn't need to be under Randy's wing to be the guy. The tables had completely turned. The kid who used to take slaps to the face just to get a sliver of television time was now the one holding all the leverage. When WWE came calling, they weren't offering him a spot in a tag team or another goofy gimmick. They were offering him the kingdom. They wanted the American Nightmare exactly as he was, ready to headline WrestleMania. When Cody walked back through that curtain at WrestleMania 38, he wasn't Randy Orton's rookie anymore. He was a made man. The stage was finally set for the ultimate student versus teacher battle. Cody didn't return to WWE to play nice. He came back to dominate. From the second the ink dried on his contract, he went to work, proving that WWE's massive bet on him wasn't just worth every cent. It was a steal. First came the trilogy with Seth Rollins, a series of matches so physically intense and emotionally gripping that it culminated in Cody wrestling inside Hell in a Cell with a completely torn pectoral muscle. That night, his legendary toughness was cemented forever. Then came the absolute war with Brock Lesnar, a brutal, bloody passing of the torch that proved Cody could survive the most dangerous monster in the business. And finally, the masterpiece, a 2-year generational saga against Roman Reigns that culminated in Cody doing the unthinkable, dethroning the tribal chief at WrestleMania 40 and finishing his story. It was arguably the greatest, most emotionally charged feud in the history of modern professional wrestling. Cody was the undisputed king of the mountain, the ultimate hero. But even as fans cheered for every title defense, and even as Cody vanquished giant after giant, there was a quiet voice at the back of every wrestling fan's mind, a lingering thought that refused to go away, because no matter how great the matches with Seth, Brock, or Roman were, everyone knew the ultimate ghost had yet to be faced. We were all just waiting, waiting for that familiar, slow, calculating theme song to hit, waiting for the one man who knew Cody's weaknesses better than anyone else. The WWE universe was strapped in for the current ride, but in our hearts, we were counting down the days until the inevitable, the ultimate tragic collision with Randy Orton. However, for some time, wrestling fans, myself included, started to look at the landscape and wonder, is WWE actually going to do Randy versus Cody? Because instead of building tension, WWE leaned entirely into the real life brotherhood. When Randy Orton returned from his career threatening back injury, he didn't look at Cody with envy or a cold, calculated glare. He hugged him. They became inseparable on screen. They were constantly tagging together, watching each other's backs against bloodline beatdowns, and celebrating each other's victories like proud brothers. It was heartwarming, sure, but for the hardcore wrestling fan, it was agonizing. Every week they stood side by side as buddies. A collective anxiety grew in the WWE universe. We started to think WWE was playing it too safe. We worried that their genuine, deep rooted real life friendship and mutual respect had completely castrated the creative direction of the story. It felt like Cody was too pure of a babyface to ever distrust Randy, and Randy was too comfortable in his veteran, crowd pleasing role to ever burn the bridge. They were playing the roles of loyal locker room allies perfectly, but wrestling fans don't just want happy endings. We want drama, we want tragedy, and the more they smiled, shook hands, and shared the ring as best friends, the more it felt like the ultimate heel turn, the one that would truly shatter Cody's world, was being locked away in a vault never to see the light of day. And then it happened. WWE pulled the trigger. They gave us the match we'd been begging for, Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton for the undisputed WWE Championship. It all started at the Elimination Chamber when Randy outlasted his competitors, punching his ticket to the grandest stage of them all and setting up the ultimate student versus teacher main event for WrestleMania. Randy turning on Cody was the exact moment the collective wrestling world jumped out of their seats. For a brief second, it felt like WWE had nailed it. The initial sight of Randy Orton finally shedding the happy veteran skin and going full sociopath on Cody was pure, unadulterated entertainment. Watching the cold blooded viper stand over a broken American nightmare gave us chills. The fuse was lit, the heel turn was locked in, and the real war was supposed to begin. But what happened next didn't just miss the mark, it turned the entire rivalry sour. Just as fans were bracing themselves for a gritty, deeply personal war between mentor and student, the corporate suits at TKO Group decided that 15 years of rich wrestling history wasn't enough to sell tickets. They panicked, looking for mainstream headlines, and injected a heavy dose of unnecessary celebrity spectacle that completely cheapened the narrative gravity. First came the mystery caller angle. For weeks, we watched a paranoid, unhinged Randy Orton answering cryptic phone calls, leaving fans to speculate which legendary figure from his past was pulling his strings. The eventual payoff, Pat McAfee. The logic was completely paper thin, but WWE wasn't done overcooking the broth. To counter McAfee, the creative team decided Cody needed his own mainstream muscle, so they randomly inserted country music star Jelly Roll into the equation. It was like the Travis Scott deja vu. By forcing McAfee and Jelly Roll into the spotlight, WWE took focus away from the two men who actually built the house. Instead of watching Cody grapple with the psychological trauma of fighting the monster who created him, the audience was forced to watch a tacky, star studded circus. The nuclear heat of Randy's heel turn was completely smothered by corporate marketing, leaving fans with a hollow, frustrating reminder of what happens when the almighty dollar overrides pure wrestling storytelling.